So we're no longer talking about being just charismatic or winning the popularity contest. Hey podcast fam, it's your go-to leadership team coach and host, Jessie here, and I'm ready to shake things up. If you're also tired of outdated forms of authority and ready to rebel against the mediocrity of leadership we see today, you might have just found your spot. So join me in unleashing this next generation of leaders by embracing being just a bit too millennial. Let's redefine this thing together. Welcome back. Today, we're tackling a word I throw around quite a lot, and I've decided never to define it. You see it a lot in our workplaces. We say it a lot. There's a whole conferences devoted to it. LinkedIn posts with it with sunrise hikes in the background. What is this word I'm talking about? Well, yep, you probably guessed it. The word is leadership. What is a leader? What is leadership? As kids, it almost seems obvious who the leader is. It's those ones that always get chosen as the captain. It's the kid that can just get everybody to play the same game. They have this magnetic, charismatic personality. But as we get older, leadership gets a bit murkier. Leadership shifts. Now it's really shaped by our experiences, our mindsets, our values, probably most likely all the mistakes we've made. It stops being about what a leader looks like, and it starts being about becoming, about what your leadership looks like. So what is leadership? Before I tell you that, let me tell you a story. Once I signed up for, I have no idea why, to host some high school students as interns. And during the interview, one of them actually looked at me and asked, "What is leadership?" And I froze for a moment. My mind went blank. I realized I had no idea how to answer that question. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been caught. They caught me in a lie of who I am. I'm a leadership coach. And I was like, I can't even define what leadership is to this high schooler who's asking me this very poignant question. So naturally, I did what any adult modeling confidence and vulnerability would do. I threw it right back at him. I asked him, what do you think leadership is? And he gave probably a really great answer, solid answer. And I was like, oh, phew, I saved it. Nodded along like, yep. That's exactly what I was going for the whole time. For the record, just so you're all aware, none of the high school interns decided to work with me. So yes, I did get rejected by a bunch of 16-year-olds, which is a bit humbling. But in anyways, what is leadership? So when I looked at the research, I found Ralph Stockdale, way back in 1974, said it best. He said, there are almost as many definitions of leadership as there are people trying to define it. So, is there even a definition of leadership? In the literature, people have called leadership a trait, a set of behaviors, a process of influence, a shared group function, a relationship, a mindset. So when I thought about leadership, I started thinking it in context or in relationship to this idea of management. What is leadership versus what is management? Because most of the time we use those two words interchangeably. I do it as well. And so to understand leadership, I wanted to look into that nuance, because being a great manager does not mean that you're a great leader. But you can also be a great leader and not be a great manager. So they're not opposites. They're just different toolkits. So when I was thinking about kind of what is the bottom line between being an individual contributor, being a manager, being a leader, I was thinking, well, individual contributors, they tend to execute the work. Managers tend to stabilize the team enough so that each individual person can execute. And leaders mobilize. So sometimes leadership and management overlap. Sometimes they conflict. but organizations need both to succeed. And we toggle through all of our different positions and different mindsets throughout the day. So we are all both an individual contributor, we're a manager, we're a leadership, and we can all do that within 1 hour of one another. So we're about almost 5 minutes into this episode, and have I answered what leadership is yet? A popular practitioner in the agile software space, lean technology, team performance work, Doc Norton, maybe I can get him on the podcast if anyone has any ins, but I really loved the quote that he said to describe the nuances between being a manager and being a leader. Quote, "Manager is a title, it's a role and a set of responsibilities. Having the position of manager does not make you a leader. Leadership is the result of action. If you act in a way that inspires, encourages, or engages others, you are a leader." End quote. Warren Bennis, who's one of the most influential voices in modern leadership, said, "Managers do things right, leaders do the right thing." Peter Senge, one of my favorite researchers, he said, "The new role of leadership is not as a commander, but as a designer, teacher, and steward." Another definition in a more recent paper that was done, and I'll link the paper in the show notes, they say, quote, "Leadership is a strategic function that focuses on motivating and aligning people towards vision, trust, and organizational learning." Whereas management was defined as an operational function that focuses on organizing processes, enforcing standards, and monitoring results. As you can see, there's lots of definitions out there, lots of different frameworks and framing on what leadership is. And do I really need to know that definition? I mean, yes, I believe in precise language, but is it important? For me, I think it's more about the essence. So what is the essence? Because both leaders and managers aim to influence people to meet goals. What really differs is how they tend to do it. Bottom line, management is what keeps the lights on. Leadership makes sure we're headed somewhere worth lighting. And yes, ChatGPT, I think, wrote that. So no, I did not come up with it. It's pretty good though. A title doesn't make you a leader, and a lack of one doesn't mean you aren't one. Leadership is about your actions and impacts on others. So the next time you're managing a task or leading a moment, ask yourself, am I being the person they report to or the person they want to follow? Before we sign off, I wanted to iterate a point on the transition from being an individual contributor to that transition to management. When I work with new managers, one of the things that I usually discuss first is that they've moved into this management position because they've been excellent at whatever they've done in the past. They probably wouldn't have been promoted otherwise. So there's this hard truth that comes from this transition. Most people get promoted because they're great doers. They're experts, they're problem solvers. And then suddenly they're tossed into a role where doing all those things isn't enough, isn't really what makes them a great manager. It doesn't fully translate. The funny thing is though, most of the times when we do transition or we're promoted, we're not just managing, we're still being asked to do our individual contributor role, but now on top of that, we're being asked to learn 2 new skill sets. And as you can see, management and leadership are nuanced from one another. And usually when we learn anything new, we are not super great at it at first. What we learn in this transition is that the role becomes less about doing and it becomes more about coaching, listening, creating clarity and alignment, holding others accountable while being empathetic, which is always one my clients struggle with, learning how to motivate the team, managing people dynamics, not just solving problems for yourself. I mean, there's a reason I work for myself, let's be honest. People are not always the easiest. Just ask my old bosses. They'll tell you the truth about how difficult having to manage me. This is one of the reasons this transition is very overwhelming for most of my clients and why coaching is critical at this point. That's a wrap for today's episode of Too Millennial. If you're feeling inspired, hit that subscribe button and follow me on your favorite social media. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious, stay bold, and keep disrupting.